My name is Brittney Erickson, and I am from a small town called Morris, Illinois. So I have been dancing for 30 years. Oof, 30 years, yes. I started when I was 2. So I started right away, with my first dance shoes right away when I was 2. My dad plays the trumpet, and that's really, and I've never really actually heard him play. I just saw his trumpet when I was a kid. So I knew there was music in my family, but not necessarily any actual musicians, so to speak. And when I have my shoes on, and still to this day, like a chilly bumps thinking about it, but still to this day, I feel like a musician when I tap, and I feel like that's what separates tap from all other genres. Now, I am not hating on any other genres, because like I said, I love doing it all, but I feel like we actually, as tappers, get to add to the music or complement it. I like to talk about, in choreography, with tap specifically, that it's like a conversation, it's a relationship. So in your relationship, and this goes, I guess, across the board for any choreography, but in a relationship, you want to do things to complement. You want to do things that either are the same or complement. So with this piece specifically, it was nice to have those moments where there's that like heartbeat of the song, the doom, 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 that awesome riff that happens so many times. And that was the thing that we were doing the same. That was where we were together on that journey. Then there's other pieces where I could layer it and become a different thing that then would complement what was happening in the song. I'm so tired. Tapping after college was an interesting journey for me. I wasn't able to really tap through college other than coming home and taking class when I could. I was lucky enough to go to school where I was only about just over an hour away from the studio, so I could still come home and take class whenever I wanted, but I wasn't able to find an outlet other than that while I was in school. So right after school, I had the opportunity to perform with a tap company in New Jersey, and I did that a little bit. That's actually where my best friend is from, and she and I actually met through tap dance, which is awesome as well. And so I did that. I was able to be in that show, and it was amazing. That's called Hands Down Tap Project, and they're awesome. They're still thriving, which makes me so happy. And then I got in a little bit of a slump. I was auditioning in the city, not really finding, and by the city I mean Chicago, my home city, right? I like to tell, I'm sure amongst everybody that's in the Chicagoland area, we just tell people we're from Chicago, right? Not actually from Chicago, I live in the cornfields. But I was auditioning in the city, not really finding the right thing, and in my gut I knew there was something out there. So one of my mentors, who I used to sit in the window and watch her take tap from my aunt, who is our studio owner, who then went off to college, was in a company for a long time, got a hold of me and said, hey, I think I'm starting something. I think I'm starting this tap company. Are you in? What do you think? And I was able to perform again, and it was like I found myself again. That spark was lit in me, and everything changed. I remembered what it was like. And don't get me wrong, my true number one over all things passion is teaching. In the classroom is my best performance. But just under that is performing on stage for sure. So I did that for a while. Then I started to have some knee trouble that even though I know better, and when you know better, you should do better, I wasn't listening to my body. I wasn't listening to that pain or that. I was like, oh, I'm just getting older. Oh, it's just part of the biz. Well, it turns out I had totally destroyed my ACL. And when I went to the doctor, he's like, okay, we have a couple choices. We can't save your meniscus, that's done. We gotta shave it down, and it's just gonna be what it is so that we can stop the pain. And we're gonna have to rebuild your ACL. So that process was, I believe now, about 4 years ago. And I wasn't sure I'd ever be able to do what we did today again. I knew I could make it happen as a teacher. I mean, you couldn't keep me away from the studio. I was in the studio on crutches with my full-length brace on my body. Like, you could not get me out of that space. But like I said, that's my biggest passion, right? So the physical therapy and the visits and I had a wonderful surgeon, I had a wonderful doctor. I would recommend him to anybody I know. But he did tell me that my arthritis was gonna get really bad. Probably by the time I was 30, I'm 32 now, and I'm still pushing strong. So actually today, was the first time that I've performed in about 5 years. So huge success story, if you will, not to like, I'm not being Oprah right now, but huge success story as far as when you listen to your body and give it the right things and fuel it with the right things, and not just your body, but your brain, because I wouldn't take that as an answer, right? This has been my whole life. Like I said, 30 years, which that coming out of my mouth, I was super not ready for that to be an answer, but this has been my whole life. And yes, I actually went to college for costume construction and design. I did not go to college for dance because luckily, the college I went to, dance was a part of the theater program, so I was still able to take my dance classes. I was still able to come home and take class, but I wanted that something additional. So in a way, I feel like the whole process for me with my knee was a huge journey for me to remember that this is what I'm supposed to be doing. You're not just gonna give this up. Yes, you have these other outlets that you can move forward on, but this isn't something you're ever gonna give up. I won't lie, everybody was awesome today, but that feeling of your audience and the feeling of the response, and not even the cheering, I don't mean that at all, but you can feel the vibe in a theater, in a black box, in a outdoor stadium, whatever it might be, you can feel it. So to have that lack is a little tough. However, knowing that so many people get to see this and get to experience this, and not just what's happening with me, but this entire series that's happening, we get to share this beyond who would just be inside a theater. So I think that piece of the audience is an interesting thing for me to tumble with. I have danced in front of camera before on a couple different projects, but nothing to this extent. So the song choice is actually a super cool story. With that, I was sent a couple different songs, and I wanted to pick the one that was most outside my comfort zone, because if you're not growing, you're not going anywhere. So I was like, this'll push me, this'll give me something different, this is totally not something I would normally choose to tap to. I'm big on like funk music, kind of more of that swing feel, and this is definitely not that. But what's interesting about it is I chose the song, super excited. I looked up some album art and I was like, okay, these are my people, this sounds awesome. I played it for my husband. He's like, what are you listening to? This doesn't sound like you, this sounds way more like me. But what was interesting is when I started to choreograph, it did not take me anywhere near as long as I thought it would. But I think it's because I took that step outside my comfort zone, because it was something different. It was easier to have that creative process, where when it's the same thing over and over, right? Einstein's definition of insanity. When it's the same thing over and over again, you have to find different things. And with this, it was just such a outpour of, oh yeah, I hear this, and oh, this is the heartbeat of the song, I gotta match that, whatever it might be. So that was super cool too. Today was amazing. I felt a piece of something bigger, if that makes sense. And it wasn't just me at all. I had zero expectation of what was gonna happen today. I knew that I was gonna come in and I was gonna do my dance and there was gonna be some cameras. But just the different shots and the different way everybody works together, and it was above and beyond what I could have even expected it to be.
This is it.